Hello.
I think what we'll do is I'll have fun.
He's so mean to me.
Yeah. Yeah, yep. So you want to go back there? Is she back there right now? Okay. Go ahead and bring her out, and then also I want you, huh? Him. Go ahead and bring him out. And then before he comes on stage, I want you to point out where his judges are before he comes on stage. Gwen, Haven. I don't know where Warren is. Right. That works right. Ooh, that works right there. Good morning, everybody. How are we doing this morning? Doing good? Tired? Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to the 2023 Montana FFA Prepared Finals Hall. We've got some pretty good speeches lined up for you guys today, and we're excited to have you here. If you just want to go ahead and help me recognize our judges real quick. Some of them traveled a little bit of ways to get here today, and just want to thank them for what they're doing today. So, first of all, we have Gwen Simonuk from the Pro Co-op. We have Taven Snyder representing Sustainable Oils. Lauren Bigler representing MSU and a former national competitor in the Prepared Speaking Contest. And lastly, we have Luke Anderson representing C&B Operations. Thank you for being here today, judges. With that, for prepared speaking, each member has prepared a 6 to 8 minute speech, and then they will present their speech, and they're going to go ahead and give 5 minutes of question and answer after that. With that, I think our first contestant is ready. So please welcome to the stage Weston Sodano from the Big Timber FFA, and he's going to be speaking on a speech titled Real versus Fake Meat.
I want everyone in the audience right now to imagine that you're in a grocery store, shopping for food to create a family dinner. You pick up 2 different packages of meat. One has 20 different ingredients and was manufactured in a food facility. The other has 1 ingredient, real beef from a cow. Which package would you choose? For most of us, this isn't a hard choice. For some, though, more thought is considered. Fake and imitation meats are both defined as meat products that are both heavily industrialized and contain no animal products. There's an estimated 15% raise in the amount of fake and imitation meats in 2031 than there already is now due to an increasing world population which craves some kind of meat on their plate. Can that real meat still hold itself high with all of these new meat alternatives? Traditionally, real beef and meat products have made up the majority of the world's diet. They have sustained us for a large part of our existence, and byproducts of animals are also prevalent in lots of the world's common daily food and non-food products. So, consequently, there has to be numerous good qualities in real meat that make it sustainable. Nutritionally, meat has tons of different vitamins and minerals. For example, fish has an abundance of EPA and DHA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and doxyhexanoic acid respectively, which aid in the development and function of a person's cognitive ability as well as concentration and everyday brain function. While real meat does contain high levels of cholesterol and fat, which can lead to obesity and cancer, fake and imitation meats simply do not contain as many good amino acids and vitamins as real meat. While some may argue that this is false, the ultra-processed nature of fake meats means that if they had similar qualities to begin with, they are discarded through the manufacturing process of plant to imitate meat. For example, pea proteins are a common agent used in imitation meat products due to their protein content. Beyond Meat Burger, along with many other popular imitation meat companies, use pea protein isolate as a major ingredient in their specific blend for their product. This ingredient involves stripping peas of their natural nutritional benefit to isolate their protein content. Another popular company, the Impossible Burger, uses soy protein concentrate, which some believe can be dangerous in certain amounts. Real meats contain unstripped vitamins and minerals that cannot be found in fake meat products. An example of this is heme iron, the most readily and efficiently absorbed form of iron found exclusively in real meat. Elaborating on the following statement, zinc is a common mineral necessary for the strength and function of a person's immune system. In a small 3.5-ounce serving of beef, a person can find 34% of their daily needed zinc. Whole grains can provide this same mineral when used in fake meat products. However, like heme iron, the body more readily absorbs zinc in real meat rather than in processed imitation meat products. Environmentally, some consumers believe that the fake meat industry is better for the environment than the real meat industry. When humbly recognizing a few shortcomings in real meat production, this industry is responsible for 15% of greenhouse gas emissions in the world. Continuing, a Beyond Meat sponsored study, according to them, one hamburger patty from their company uses 99% less water, 90% fewer contaminating emissions, 45% less electricity, and 93% less land than the real meat industry. Lastly, the animal farming industry does require the use of 15,000 liters of water and the emission of 27 kilos of greenhouse gases to produce 1 kilogram of beef. While all of these previously mentioned true statistics are valid, our bodies do not recognize the artificiality embedded within fake meat products. Humans were not evolved to regularly consume foods that contain dramatic amounts of processed ingredients. Whole and natural foods contain bioavailable nutrients that work synergistically with your body, making imitation meats less environmentally friendly in the long run. Economically, some consumers believe fake meats can market themselves just as well as real meats. On the contrary, though, a nationwide survey conducted by the Dalhousie University's Agri-Food Analytics Lab, along with Better Car Analytics, found that meat substitutes cost roughly 38 cents more than real meats per every 100 grams of product. Now, granted, between you and me, that might not sound like a whole lot at first. However, after years of sales, this can help explain why the fake meat industry costs roughly 43% more than the real meat industry. To actually sell these fake meats and grow the market a mere 6%, an estimated $27 billion, with a B, billion dollars must be spent on the project. When it comes to marketing these products to consumers, fake and imitation meats are mostly marketed to individuals that are either vegetarian or vegan. However, in the entire United States, an estimated 6% of the population is vegetarian and 3% of the population is vegan. When it comes to trusted buyers, fake meat companies rely on the 6 and 3% to buy their product, which unfortunately is the minority of the population. This causes an unfavorable economic landslide for the side of fake and imitation meats. In conclusion, all meats and foods in general have their strengths and weaknesses, and food is something that is sincerely special to all of us. Whether you go out to eat at a restaurant, have a family dinner, or cook for an event or holiday, everyone associates these events with positive experiences. However, when it comes to purchasing meat or ordering it at a restaurant, make sure you weigh the pros and the cons to both sides of the coin so that you can choose the meat that's right for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Weston. My first question is, are there any markets where these alternative meat or protein products might have a place?
I think that's a really interesting thing to think about Because when I was researching this topic, one thing that I found for fake meat companies is that oftentimes when it comes to buyers, they look at a specific group of people known as flexitarians. Flexitarians are people that are either looking to consume less real meat for one of two reasons. One, they're either looking to consume less for health reasons, or two, they're looking to consume less for moral or environmental reasons. So I think for those individuals that are looking for an alternative option if they've tried real meat and decided that it just simply wasn't their thing, it provides an alternative source for them so that everyone can consume and enjoy some type of meat product in their home.
Good job, Weston.
Thank you.
I would have a question just to speak to the marketing side of the fake meat. As they spend and continue to spend more and more dollars marketing their product and frankly do a really good job of it, what does Real Beef need to do to be able to keep up with that?
I think when it comes to having Real Beef keep up with the demanding market, I think if Real Beef companies can exemplify and show the traditionality and the honest and true nutrition that comes behind meat products, they can use this to their advantage and help market themselves just as much as the fake meats. But also, I believe that when it comes to purchasing meat, even as a consumer, if you're picking something, whether it be fake meat or real meat, since it's kind of a big topic at the moment, I believe in a case like that, you're almost like voting with your dollars. And by choosing either side of the meat, you're supporting that kind of food production in America, which is something that I believe is very, very important.
Great job. I was just wondering if you encountered any research about lab-grown meat and how that compared to people's opinions versus fake meat and real meat.
Awesome. I think that when I was doing some research about lab-grown meat, it was very, very interesting to find aspects of it also from a nutrition standpoint that was really interesting, because there was a magazine that I read called The Power of Protein, where a whole page of it was devoted to how fake meats can perhaps outdo real meats in terms of nutrition. And what was interesting about that is they believe that in the future, they can tailor hamburger patties to what people want. For example, let's say someone wanted a burger patty that has higher omega-3 fatty acids. They're thinking that, all right, we can get that order. When we're making your patty, we'll squeeze a little more omega-3 fatty acids into that burger. Which, granted, a good idea, and I think that could something that could persist and can be successful for fake meat companies. However, what I think about that is, where is this omega-3 fatty acid originating? Is it from animals? Is it from something like fish oils? Or is it something made from synthetic chemicals? So I think with a point like that, it sits with the consumer to resonate. Would I like to try this? And if I do, would I continue buying that product?
Thank you, Weston. I had a question for you related to, in your speech, you were talking about the economics of buying different types of meats and alternative proteins. And so with some of the alternative proteins, plant-based, what have you, there are some differences in nutritional benefits. So how do you think, in the research that you've done, how can some consumers supplement some of the nutritional things in their diet that they're missing from these alternative proteins if they can't afford traditional meat?
Absolutely. I think that's another really great point to bring up. Something that I really saw when it comes to people that are perhaps, like you said, forced into buying fake meat due to price. I think that if you can supplement some of the missing vitamins, minerals, proteins in your diet with vegetables or fruits or other food, even vitamin supplements to help keep you up on your vitamins, those are things that can definitely help you keep up with your nutrition in a way that's not going to be, I don't think, breaking your bank account, but something that's going to be ensuring that you can get the nutrition you need to live a happy and fun, fulfilled life. Thank you all. It's been a sincere pleasure.
Thank you for the speech, Weston. While we give our judges a couple seconds to go ahead and tally up and give a couple last-second comments, I'd like to ask everybody currently in the Four Seasons Arena right now to keep your voices down a little lower and be respectful about the speeches currently at hand. Just gets less distractions out there. Thank you. Are our judges ready for the next speaker? One more minute. How about over here? Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started now. So our next speaker, hailing from the Winifred FFA, is Emma Lou Slifka, and she's going to have a speech entitled Fighting for Agriculture. Emma?
It was a day like any other day. I was relaxing in my room, scrolling through my phone mindlessly, when a YouTube video caught my attention. I clicked on it, but after less than a minute of watching this video, I realized it was not what I believed it to be. In this video, a man criticized dairy farmers for their cruel treatment of animals. Anger boiled inside of me as I remembered the time I had spent on a dairy in Wisconsin. What this man was saying was not the truth. He talked about how dairy cattle spend their lives unhappy, being forced into milk production. In reality, a dairy cow spends most of her day eating a feed ration designed by her personal nutritionist, chewing cud, and resting in comfortable bedding next to her herd mates. But when I looked in the comments, I found hundreds of people commending him for his video, saying he opened their eyes to the cruel treatment of animals. I didn't know how to react. This was the first time I experienced the power of media in such a negative way. On this day, I realized that social media can leave a large impact on how people view agriculture. And unfortunately, this was not the last time I experienced this issue. As I spent more and more time on social media, I discovered more and more false information that was advertised as the truth. An example of this issue happened just last October when Ann Coulter, a popular news reporter, released a statement on Twitter saying, "If farmers ran the world, we'd still be sweeping instead of vacuuming, washing our clothes in rivers instead of washing machines. Why should Americans be forced to subsidize this one industry's refusal to move into the 1900s? Now, you and I know this is not true. Farmers have made incredible innovations in technology, and they continue to upgrade and adapt to the potential in their industry. In just the past 2 years, the agriculture community has made incredible advancements in areas such as precision agriculture, which uses technology to take in data and increase crop yield, and vertical farming, which effectively increases food production. But to the thousands of people that follow Ann Coulter and trust her as a credible source, what she's saying is the truth. Now, the issue of negative information circulating media doesn't stop with individual people. It can involve large organizations as well, such as the American Prairie, formerly known as the American Prairie Reserve. This organization uses taglines and promises that sound appealing to the average person. Their hashtag, Save an Ecosystem, implies that they are saving an ecosystem from agriculture. Their goal is to create the largest wildlife reserve in the lower 48 states, consisting of 3.2 million acres of both public and private land. To the average person, this sounds like a noble organization striving to save the land and the animals. In reality, they are buying sustainable farms and ranches that have been cared for through generations of agriculture production. For example, the agriculture community rotates grazing land with their livestock to ensure that the grass has time to regrow and soak in the nutrients left by the cattle. The American Prairie plans to allow free-roaming bison, which can damage the soil and to the point where regrowth will take several years. But to the hundreds of people donating to the American Prairie, they only see the emotional aspect of saving an ecosystem. I'd like to talk about one more company using their platform to criticize agriculture, except this story has a different ending. Back in 2020, Burger King released a statement criticizing dairy farmers for the large amounts of methane being produced on their farms. This outraged hundreds of farmers, and the company received backlash and many hateful comments. Among these upset people was an influencer by the name Michelle Miller, known on her social media as Farm Babe. Miller took a different approach than the rest of the critics. She reached out to the company and invited several representatives out to tour farms in her area. Over 2 days, she proved the importance of dairy farms and showed the facts about production agriculture. Several months later, Burger King revoked its previous statement and released a new one, commending farmers for their efforts in sustainability. How do agriculture advocates productively expose the truth on agriculture? When we feel our livelihoods being criticized, it is easy to become angry and respond accordingly. But this creates an unproductive environment for effective problem solving. Michelle Miller serves as the perfect example on how to handle these situations. She responds without anger and invites the negative critics to become a part of agriculture. When people become a part of agriculture and experience it firsthand, they gain a greater sense of understanding, and they themselves become advocates. There is a snowball effect of advocacy that ensues. Now, the average American is at least 3 generations removed from agriculture. Most, so, when faced with the negative information they see every day on their social media pages, it becomes easy to understand why they so quickly believe this. How can we solve this issue? How can students, teachers, and other people who are passionate about agriculture productively make a difference? I believe there are 3 simple solutions. First, meet them where they are. In 2021, 70% of Americans had at least one social media account. The negative information that consumers receive comes from articles, photos, and videos they see online. If we post the truth about current agriculture, we can reach a higher number of misled consumers. Second, invite them to become a part of agriculture. Just as Miller proved, when people become a part of agriculture, they gain a greater sense of understanding and even pride. An example of this can be seen in this room. FFA invites all members, no matter who they are or where they live, to become a part of agriculture. When you talk to FFA members, you can see their love and pride for agriculture, no matter who they are. And lastly, recruit more advocates. So many people are afraid to speak their truth. They are afraid to speak out against those who criticize them, or they respond defensively with anger. Teaching people how to effectively advocate for agriculture can take place in the classroom, workshops, or even one-on-one conversations. It is undeniable that social media has negatively affected the lives of agriculture producers. But there are answers sitting right in front of us. So that leaves us with 2 options. We can leave here today and continue life as normal, ignoring the negative information we see every day. Or we can become a part in securing a better future for agriculture. I believe in the future of agriculture, and I believe it depends on us advocating for the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. My question is, how can we invite people who are maybe geographically distanced from ag, so those who maybe live in really big urban areas, to experience ag?
That's a great question. Oftentimes when people live in those urban areas, they don't get exposed to agriculture, obviously, as much as we do. I know this personally. I have a cousin who lives in California, in the most populated city. So he doesn't get to experience agriculture every day like I do. Now, we always reach out to him. We always invite him. We always tell him he's always welcome. We teach him the facts about agriculture while he's still battling all of the negative information he sees every day. And because of that, and because he's seen the truth, he's able to advocate even in the city. So I believe reaching out to people in the city is the best way. Getting FFA programs in those urban areas is super important, even if you're geographically away from agriculture. Reaching out to people is the greatest way to make a difference. Being personable with them and telling them the truth and being honest with them is how we can make the greatest difference.
Great job, Emma. You spoke to it a little bit at the end of your talk there, but with an increasingly smaller segment of the population involved in production agriculture and having an extremely small voice on social media, what do you think could actually be done to increase the number of good messages out there instead of everyone being flooded by the negative?
That's a great question also. If there's such a small number of us and we're posting the truth, then how are people going to see it? Me personally, I only have 200 followers on Instagram, so most of those are my friends and family. So when I post the truth, am I really reaching those misled consumers? So my answer to that comes through sponsorships. The American Farm Bureau does an amazing job of posting the truth about agriculture and boosting it using sponsorships to really reach a higher number of misled consumers. Now, that might not be the answer everyone is looking for. You have to spend money in order to teach the truth, but sometimes I believe it is the best way to go about these things. You can also invite your friends and other people to invite the truth or post the truth about agriculture. Because me personally, I only have 200 followers, but my sister has 1,000, and my brother has 400, and my other brother has 2,000. So if we all post the same thing, how many people are we reaching then? If you invite people to post the truth in a larger number, then you will be able to reach a higher number of people.
Great job, Emma. I just have a question. You talked about how you've been involved in agriculture advocacy. I'm curious if you've encountered any naysayers or people that refuse to believe what you're trying to tell them. And if you have, how have you handled that situation, or how do you recommend that people handle that situation?
So I am very lucky. I haven't gotten in any major fights over agriculture, but I do encounter people who are misled and don't know the truth. Every day in my school, there always seems to be someone that just doesn't quite understand. A lot of that comes from like not understanding quite GMOs or what organic means, and all of those things, I'm just honest with them. I tell them the truth, I show them the facts, and I make sure they understand what they are actually believing. If someone is against GMOs, I can explain to them that you don't have to buy non-GMO tomatoes because there's no such thing as genetically modified tomatoes. That's just one example, telling people the truth and trying to stay calm even when you're faced with people who are screaming in your face. It can be very challenging, but sometimes that can make the biggest impact on people. If they see you are responding calmly and with the truth, they will show you that same respect.
Thanks, Emmylou. So you shared a sentiment earlier that I think was very noble and necessary about how we need to have more advocates. And we have a lot of FFA members who can do that, and a lot of our members might not have a traditional agriculture background. So I was hoping you could clarify some of the resources, experiences, and tools that our advocates need to be effective in promoting agriculture.
Teaching people how to advocate for agriculture can start anywhere. Me personally, it started with my siblings leading me through that process and allowing me to understand what advocating truly means. Advocating doesn't have to be standing up on a stage giving a speech. Oh, sorry. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we're running a little bit behind schedule, so judges, if you could do a quick favor for me and maybe try to remember some of those last comments in your head for later, and then we can wait and do that math on those rubrics for later as well. With that, I believe we are ready for our next speaker. Hunter, are we ready? We're ready. Awesome. Okay, so please help me in welcoming to the stage Colton Harris from Stevensville, and he's going to be speaking on the forest's fighting chance.
It's late June. The mountain soil still holds moisture deposited from the previous winter storms. And there I was, situated atop my horse, gazing upon the Bitterroot Mountain Range, mesmerized by its astounding beauty. As I sat there, soaking in thousands of colors, vibrantly on display by the warm summer sun, I thought to myself, just how blessed I am to live in the glorious state of Montana. But as most Montanans know, these majestic views don't always last for long. as we are almost annually plagued by devastating and deadly wildfire seasons. August came, and as I peeked out of my window, unable to see the neighbor's place, I found myself enveloped by the heavy smoke that had settled into our valley. I felt I needed a grasp, but I was now living in this seemingly apocalyptic landscape, and I began researching. Hey Google, where is the smoke of Montana coming from? The results blew my mind. It turned out that the smoke that was tampering with my daily life wasn't even coming from a Montana wildfire. It was being blown in from the massive infernos that were raging in California, Washington, and Idaho. I continued to research these wildfires and concluded that there's a simple solution to help mitigate these devastating natural disasters: prescribed burning and logging. In 1994, President Bill Clinton passed the Northwest Forest Plan, which was designed to protect the habitat of the spotted owl. The plan consists of anti-logging acts and no-burning policies. Sounds great, right? Honestly, who wouldn't want to save an entire species? This plan has long since failed. Between 2020 and 2022 alone, 7 million acres have been obliterated by wildfires. What's worse is the vast majority of these megafires occurred in the region that the Northwest Forest Plan protected. National Geographic recently conducted a study on the population of the spotted owl. Their research shows that the population of this endangered owl species has decreased by 50 to 75% since 1995. The main reason is habitat loss, but not due to prescribed burning or logging. Rather, it's due to uncontrollable wildfires that are decimating California forests each year, leaving nothing but ash and death in its wake. But then again, why should you be concerned about fires that are happening in an entirely different state? Let's shift the spotlight to more local matters. 514,000 acres have been consumed by wildfires in the state of Montana in the past 2 years. And all of the major wildfires have occurred in spots that haven't been burned by prescription or logged within the previous 5 years. While we may not have the spotted owl, Montana is known for its big game, lynx, and other animals that rely on our forests for survival. When wildfires rip through the forest, they demolish all of the habitat that every animal in the forest relies on, including the fish in nearby tributaries and rivers. One of the best ways of preventing this devastation is prescribed burning. Now, some people may claim that prescribed burning damages our forests, considering that wildfires are one of the largest killers of our woodlands. But actually, it is one of the keys to unlocking the best preservation of our natural resources. Prescribed burning techniques remove the dead and downed debris in a given forest area. This aids forest health by allowing plant species to thrive without having to compete for moisture, sunlight, and space. Many studies over the years have proven that prescribed burning helps rejuvenate the forest. This is due to those fires removing the obstructions that prevent sunlight and water from reaching the smaller saplings, brush, and grass. Moreover, seed shells, such as pine cones, need intense heat to open and release the pine seed, which then continues the life cycle for many forest species. Still, some may ask, well, don't fires remove the food for animals in the forest? Well, as obstacles are removed and forests become healthy, an oncoming of grasses and shrubs occurs. With this influx in forage, an increase in animals will occur too, which then creates a need for predators, such as cougars and wolves, to moderate the deer and elk population that are feasting on these forage plants. In addition, wildfires are like living things. They need air and food to thrive. When they start in forests that have readily available fuels, such as those dead and downed debris, they're able to grow unchecked. But by removing these items from the menu, the primary fuel source for any future fire is substantially decreased, leaving the fire starved. Imagine what happens when even more fuel for fires is removed. Logging and commercial thinning does just that. The act of logging can take many forms, be commercial logging for lumber or recreational logging to gather firewood for indoor fires. Whatever the objective may be, logging in all its forms are crucial to maintaining a balanced ecosystem. First of all, the act of commercial thinning rarely ever harms truly green trees. The vast majority of the trees that are harvested are either in the mature or decline phase, which means that they are producing less oxygen and are sucking all of the necessary nutrients out of the soil that the younger trees in the area depend on. This is because that older tree is nearing the end of its life and is trying to preserve itself for as long as possible. Due to this, those younger trees in the area are, in essence, starved, deprived, if you will, of the necessary nutrients and chemicals that allow them to undergo photosynthesis. So, when people argue that logging removes the amount of oxygen in the world, not logging actually has the same effect. Moreover, while researching this topic, I found myself analyzing the Montana Forest Plan map, the Montana 2019 through 2021 Montana logging maps, and the 2022 Montana fire season map. As I further examined the NFP and Montana logging maps, I noticed that all of the forest area that the Montana Forest Plan Association wanted logged between 2019 and 2021 got carried out by local logging co-ops and wildland fire crews. But all of the wildland area that they left out from the fire process was annihilated by wildfires in 2022. The realizations regarding the importance of prescribed burning and logging have continually bombarded me over the last several months, as I have continually enriched my knowledge on how to truly save our forests. Prescribed burning and logging isn't just about preventing wildfires simply for the sake of it. It's about conserving and saving our beautiful forests in Montana, in California, and in the rest of the United States of America. President Theodore Roosevelt once said, "There can be no greater issue than that of conservation in this country." He said this over a century ago, and it still holds true to this very day. Once again, I'm Colton Harris of the Stevensville FFA chapter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Colton. That was really informative. And you made a great case on a lot of your points as to why we need to better manage a lot of our forests. So could you tell me a little bit more about which audiences you think need to hear this message in order to be able to have better management?
You said which audiences need to be better knowledged in this area of thought. Well, everyone really. Most people really don't know the benefits of prescribed burning and logging. And due to this, a lot of people just hear about the mass dead cutting and clear cutting, all the forests and rainforests that you hear about in like South America. Well, many little people know is a lot of those species that are clear cutted are taken to rehabilitation centers and zoos, which then allows those species to be reimbursed into the area. But many people don't know this. I bet you hardly any of the people in this room know that prescribed burning actually helps forests, know that logging helps forests, and know that we don't just remove every single tree in the forest. So, while audiences need to hear this message, every single person that wants to help save our forests, every single person that thinks that our forests are beautiful and important needs to know the benefits of prescribed burning and logging.
Good job on your presentation. It was very educational. How do you propose going about spreading the information? Is it more of a social media campaign or talking with legislative, or how would you personally go about spreading more information?
Well, social media is great. Social media would be a great platform to help spread this information. But as was people going up and talking about this. You know, social media, there's many false rumors that can be spread on it, such as the clear cutting. But there are also great benefits of it, such as when we go out and we burn these areas, we help the rivers that people in Montana really love and depend on for fishing. Now, would social media ever say that? No. I bet another thing that many people don't know is about sediment load. Sediment load in rivers, when wildfires rip through forests, the root structures of the trees are damaged, which then creates all that sediment goes right into the forest, which damages all of your fishing. Social media doesn't know that. Social media doesn't post that. So that's one of the benefits of people being able to talk, people being knowledgeable and going out and talking about the subject. But social media is a great platform to spread the basics of it all. Spread like what I've been saying and saying that, yeah, prescribed burning helps all of this because it rejuvenates the forest. It helps bring back all these plant species. So how to spread it? Social media is a great platform. But as are people just going up and talking to people about it.
Great job. I have a little bit of a curveball, but as lumber mills continue to close one after another, there's definitely more going down than are coming up. Economically, how do we sustain the lumber industry through rising costs, transportation, all that other stuff?
Okay. Economically, yes, the lumber industry is very at risk right now, especially with considering how the economy is going currently. How do we sustain this? Well, at this point, we need people to start going out and harvesting their own lumber. My family, for example, we have a wood-burning fireplace, and every year we harvest our own personal 7 cords of wood. Now, if people were to do that on their own, rather than purchasing from someone, imagine the amount of forests we could help save just by you harvesting your own wood, going out and doing campfires while you're camping, rather than just buying some wood from a gas station. No, go harvest it yourself. Go find a downed tree and cut it. So as the lumber industry is facing this period of just risk and not great economic benefit, more people need to step in and do it themselves. The people of America need to take charge and help save our forests.
Thanks, Colton. So I'm from Colorado, and there's lots of parts of the state where there's no trees in sight, right? So how do we get people who don't live in areas near forests to care about forest management?
So I understand that completely. I actually grew up in Parker, which is a suburb of Denver, Colorado. And then later I moved to Meridian, which is a suburb of Boise, Colorado. So I understand completely about the fact that you can't see trees all the time, and many people don't really care about our forests considering that. One of the best ways of getting them to care about our forests is, do you celebrate Christmas? Do you have a Christmas tree in your home during Christmas season? Because if you do, that Christmas tree came from a forest, or it came from a lumberyard where they're harvesting these trees. Whatever it may be, it's still life. It's still part of a forest. It's still a tree. So if you don't care about Christmas, if you don't care about those trees being harvested, then okay. But if you do, donate to wildfire crews. Donate money. Donate cookies even. Help our wildland fire crews because they will go out. All right.
Okay, we're going to have our judges wrap up their comments on this rubric in a couple seconds here. And in the meantime, we have our last speaker. So if you guys want to help me give a warm welcome to Carly Friedrich from Ponywood, and she's going to be giving a speech titled GMOs, Agriculture's Scapegoat. Carly?
I love dyeing my hair. From Arctic Fox to more professional demi-permanent dyes, I've done all sorts of things to my hair color. I've honestly put more studying into bleach and lightener than I ever have for a test. Hey, it's a fun and harmless hobby, and it doesn't negatively affect anything, besides my wallet. There's just one thing. For some reason, brightly dyed hair is seen as juvenile and unprofessional by a surprisingly large number of people. Why is that? For many, there is no specific reason. They're just personally against it based off of some sort of gut reaction. It seems silly to make snap judgments based on first impressions. So why do so many do the exact same with GMOs? No matter where a person stands on the divide, it's impossible to ignore that GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, are a huge part of agriculture today and will only become more widespread in the future. They first became commercially available to the United States in the early 1990s, and usage has compounded immensely by then. By acreage, the production of genetically modified soybeans has increased from 7% to 94% in just 20 years. Similarly, cotton has jumped from a mere 2% to 91% in the same time frame. While genetic modification is only used in a select few crops, mainly corn, cotton, and soybeans, it makes up the vast majority of the crops it's utilized in. Despite being so prevalent in our country's agriculture today, a large gap in information among consumers exists. Even more than ignorance, there is blatant misinformation being spread by edge groups, and this is harmful, not only to the uninformed searching for answers, but also to producers who are trying to improve their operations through the use of newer technologies. Before forming an opinion, it's important to understand the nuances of a subject. So what exactly is a genetically modified organism? The textbook definition explains it as an organism that contains DNA that has been altered using genetic engineering, typically to favor desired physiological traits. Of course, the literal definition is missing real-world context. In reality, people have been modifying crops since agriculture first became a part of human civilization. Before technology progressed to the point of being able to use genetic engineering, modification took place through more traditional avenues, such as selective breeding. Whether it's in a field or a lab, modification always takes place for the same few reasons, and more importantly, with the same end goals, mostly increasing crop survivability or output. So in the practical sense, genetic modification in a lab is nothing more than accelerated selective breeding. Understanding the basics of genetic modification is as simple as a 30-second web search, or in the case of my audience, simply hearing the first few minutes of my speech. In a 2016 survey conducted by Pew Research, participants were asked to self-report their knowledge and opinions of GMOs. Over half of adults who participated in that survey described their knowledge as very little, and a further 19% had heard or read absolutely nothing on the subject. Of everyone in that survey, over 70% of them were less knowledgeable than those of you sitting in front of me today. Even with a lack of education, these same people had very strong opinions on the subject. In that same group, 39% believed the consumption of GMOs to be worse for one's health than their non-GMO equivalents. In 2018, the survey was reconducted, and the same question returned a result of 49%. Where did this 10% increase come from? A large part of the disagreement can be attributed to misunderstanding, whether intentional or not. It was found in these questionnaires that the increase of distrust was almost entirely within the groups of people who had little to no knowledge about GMOs. Separate statistics compiled by Cornell University show a large increase of positive outlooks on GMOs after people are taught the science and research behind them. For the obvious problem of ignorance, there is a clear-cut solution: educating the public. From government programs to public speeches, efforts to educate the public on GMOs and agriculture as a whole have ramped up in recent years. The FDA and the USDA, along with college campuses across the nation, have started to include more curriculum and public outreach on GMOs. This ongoing effort is quite promising and has already shown results. Multiple data compilations show that over the past 3 years, there has been a large increase of positive opinions on GMOs over both in-person surveys and social media. Most of the opposition to genetic modification can be attributed to a lack of education, which can be resolved by bridging the gap in knowledge. So if the solution is so easy, then why is there still a problem? There's a small group of people who are well informed but are still anti-GMO or have active concerns over the safety of genetic modification. The fears raised within these groups generally fit into two sections: genetic harm and seed monopolies. Many studies have been conducted over the years claiming that GMOs can cause toxicity buildup or even genetic mutations in consumers. And one after another, these studies are disproven. From biased research and syntax to plain old falsifying results, there is not one credible study that can prove the consumption of GMOs to be harmful. The economic side, as always, is more complex. There have been rising concerns over a small number of companies owning a large amount of the rights to genetically modified seed. And while this is true, it also applies to the seeds of their non-genetically modified counterparts. Many small companies, the Open Source Seed Initiative included, are actively combating this issue. By releasing free patents of many varieties of seeds, these companies are making cheaper, more accessible alternatives to major producers. Agriculture, by nature, is constantly evolving. As innovations in genetic modification continue, it's imperative that we attempt to understand rather than shun them. While education on genetic modification has been highly effective in the past, we need to continue to uphold these efforts in the future. Maintaining an understanding of not only GMOs, but of all updates in agriculture has been shown to benefit both consumers and producers. Genetically modified organisms are all too often unfairly judged. But beneath their bad reputation is a helpful but underutilized addition to today's agriculture. Thank you.
Great job, Carly. I would just ask a simple but complex question. Can you just tell me why we need GMOs today?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Could you just tell me why we need GMOs today?
So GMOs are used for a variety of reasons. Like I said in my speech, they can be used to increase output and survivability of crops. And world hunger has been a huge issue today in civilization, even within the United States. And so all of these crops that are being modified to be more resistant to insects, to fungus, to disease, it is making it so these crops are more survivable in the long run. It also helps farmers that would otherwise be struggling. They can turn a higher profit on their crops that they wouldn't otherwise get without the use of genetic modification.
Thanks, Carly. So you talked about the importance of agricultural education in spreading information about GMOs. One of the areas that maybe there's an opportunity for growth is in adult education, those people who maybe aren't in school anymore. What are strategies, specific strategies that we can use to educate that population?
So it is difficult to educate adults in the world because, of course, they're not in school anymore. So they're not being sat down in these desks and being fed information. It's a lot harder to get information to these adults. And so a lot of ways that government programs and other things have reached out to these people is through social media, for example. A lot of companies will reach out through social media and try to disprove all of these misconceptions that adults have. In my own life, I have seen things posted around, like the FDA, for example, puts out every year, they put out PDFs of all sorts of flyers for different things. And in my own grocery store, I have seen on the bulletin board on the way out lists of information and where to get it on GMOs.
Thank you, Carly. So my question is a bit related to this last one. So you talked a lot about, or you had mentioned the different programs with the USDA to educate the public. And I was wondering if you could be a little bit more specific as to what some of those programs are. And then also you mentioned some of this public opinion surveys and how those have improved. So could you just clarify that a little bit more and how that's changed in recent years with public opinion and those programs?
Of course. I don't have specific names of the programs, but USDA, along with the FDA, have both been putting out on social media and in person flyers and information on GMOs, as well as other current issues in ag. As for in-person surveys, Pew Research was my main example. There have been questioning on, what do you think about GMOs? Do you think they are worse or better for your health? Things like that. And the positive opinions have been going up. So, well, from 2016 to 2018, more people believed that GMOs are worse for one's health. The newer surveys, as far as 2022, that number has been going back down again due to efforts by government programs to educate the public.
So there's a lot of food labeling, such as non-GMO, on products that actually don't contain GMOs, and there haven't been any products. How do we go about educating consumers about that and working towards removing that type of labeling or correcting that type of labeling?
So non-GMO labeling is a huge subject in the whole GMO controversy, of course, and I don't believe that non-GMO labels should be removed. While it can be misleading, it makes it seem like that is a good thing and GMOs are a thing to be avoided. Removing labels and information, taking it away from consumers, is not the answer here. Non-GMO labeling, while it can mislead the public, it should be left on. People should be allowed to make their own choices. Instead of removing the non-GMO label, instead, things that are genetically modified should maybe include information on what that means and how it's not actually that different from a non-genetically modified product.
You talked about how it only takes a simple 30-second Google search to understand more about GMOs. However, most people will jump to judgment before they're curious about things. So how do we change that pattern of judgment before research?
Right, that's a thing you see a lot. People will have confirmation bias. They have an opinion and they just stick with it because they believe that they are right. I mean, why shouldn't you have confidence in your own decisions, right? And so a big way that people reach out is that maybe their own people around them. For example, I've had conversations with my own extended family where they have brought up the non-GMO argument, and I have tried to not aggressively just point out some things that might be missing in their information. Don't call them wrong or ignorant, just point out that there is another side to the argument. So in people's personal lives, they
That's time, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carly. Let's give all of our contestants one last big round of applause. So thank you, everybody, for showing up today to the Prepared Public Speaking 2023 Finals Hall. That concludes the day here. Judges, if you want to go ahead and meet me at the satellite stage on my left, your right, and we can go ahead and get last second math done and get your comments finished up, and we'll get all that wrapped up. With that, I believe most of you guys out there are delegates, and we're hoping to start a delegate session here shortly. Thank you, guys.